Okay, Philip shades in 100 square grid. The ratio of red to blue squares is 13 to 7. He shades in the whole grid red or blue. How many more red than blue squares does he shade in? So look through the question. Is there any key information that we've got there? In the first sentence, I noticed that we're using 100 square grid. So you can see below I've made a big version of that, 100 squares in a grid. How long and high is that? Just have a little look at that grid. Okay, so we know we've got 100 squares in our grid. The ratio of red to blue squares is 13 to 7. So red is written first, blue is written second. So 13 red and 7 blue. Now you might look at that and think, hang on, if there are 13 red and 7 blue squares, how can there be 100 squares? Wouldn't 13 and 7 make 20? Okay, so that means there aren't going to be 13 red squares, there are going to be 13 red sections or 13 parts that are red and 7 parts that are blue. Our job is to find out how big those parts need to be if we're going to fill in 100 squares altogether. Okay, so altogether we want to have 20 parts, but we want them to fill that 100 square grid. So we need to figure out how big each part should be. So if we do 100 shared between 20 parts, we'll find out each part must be 5 squares big. So each part is going to be that big, 5 squares big. 20 of them will make the whole thing. So I've already split up my shape into 20 equal parts that are 5 squares each. Okay, now is the easy part. I've got 20 sections. I've just got to colour in 13 sections red and 7 sections blue. So this would be one section. So even though it's 5 squares, that's one section. I'm going to colour in 13. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 13 sections red. And if we've counted correctly, there should be 7 to do blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's go back to the question. How many more red than blue squares does he shade in? So it's not asking us how many sections, it's asking us how many actual squares. So I know each section has got 5 squares in it. I know there are 13 red sections and there are 5 squares in each one. So 13 times 5, figure out what that will be. That'll be how many red we've got. I know there are 7 blue sections and of course they've all got 5 squares each in as well. So figure out what that is. That'll tell you how many blue squares we've got. Of course we could just count all of our squares, but I think this is quicker. They're asking us for the difference. So once you've got your 2 answers, it's just a takeaway to find out the difference. How many more red than blue?